Share. Okay. So last time we talked about how it's difficult to get in shape because people get frustrated because they don't get results. And part of the reasons they don't get results is because in a indirect or hopefully not direct way, they're kind of lied to. They want to get all these different benefits that these advertisers are saying, and these advertisings aren't geared toward a holistic approach. They don't talk about everything that's included. They say you can get these crazy results in a short amount of time doing simple exercises, and that's just not true. We talked about how, if I can go back here, we talked about how these all workouts, or just general workouts, not exhaustive lists, all produce a different effect on the body. Um, you can't classify them as the same thing. So you can't just say, "Oh, I moved around and I feel good," right? Because if you moved around and did these different workouts, each workout gives you a different benefit. Is it that benefit you're looking for? Sometimes, usually no. Is it appropriate for your body where you are? Generally no. So you have to really think about, what is it I need? And so I talked about a little bit last time, you have an overarching philosophy of what you need to look for. Then you also have different rules that are applied. Okay, so we have, sorry. So here's a philosophy. So move the other way. We have holistic. Now it's a big buzzword and everybody talks about it, but holistic has its roots from a long time ago. Maybe they didn't call it holistic. They called it, the body working together. And that can be seen with Andrew Taylor Still, who's the father of osteopathy, which what I do is based on osteopathy. I do manual osteopathic therapy and osteopathic type training and corrective exercises. And it talks about structure dictates function. Whoops. And then function also dictates structure. That means that the position of my body, the structure, dictates how well I do different activities. And then on top of that, how well I function internally also will dictate the position of my body. So you always start with the structure first, make sure you build properly, because the function works properly. But you also have to remember that if something's not working internally in my stomach or whatever, then it might affect parts of my body. Tensegrity is the term that we use, or biotensegrity is the term that we use in my field. But tensegrity came from a guy named Buckminster Fuller. So he was an architect, and he developed this way of building structures where the size could be unlimited. It was all interconnected, interdependent. The pressure flowed. It was very, very efficient way of building things. You can see it in the Golden Gate Bridge, right? That's based off tensegrity. So think about the road, the Golden Gate Bridge, and how the cables are going down. It all works together. If I have one part of that bridge off, a cable pulling up, the road tilted here, it throws off the whole structure. What's the same thing for your body? We just call it biotensegrity. And that philosophy must be applied when you work out. If you don't have that in mind, then you're just you're going an allopathic route. I'm going to do this one little thing right here, and this is going to work. Well, it's not this thing; it's the whole thing. If you want a picture, there's a good picture. So you want to see, basically, this is not all the connections, but you can kind of see through the body how these different lines are connecting to different parts of the body, right? And so when I move one part, let's say over here in my head, well, that affects this green line all the way down to my pubic bone. And what you don't see, that affects all the way down to my foot and leg down there, right? So if I have an imbalance, or if I'm training something, all of that needs to be understood. And so when you define a strength program or fitness program, a better way, that needs to take consideration. Now, within this structure, you also have a lot of rules. Now, you don't have to memorize these rules. You don't have to get overwhelmed by these rules, but there's a lot of really smart people that have studied the body since 400 years ago till now that have come up with rules that go, oh, this is how the body works and functions and moves. And until somebody disproves these rules, then we basically have to take them as fact. Again, people talk about getting strong with their muscles all the time. And they think about this as this piece of meat that they need to move to produce an effect and get stronger. Well, muscles don't sit there by themselves. And this is proven by Hill's muscle model. So a muscle, as people call it, has three components. It's called a series, which is your tendons and joints. The contractile part, that's the muscle fiber most people talk about. And the parallel is the fascia. The fascia is that connecting link, this, that connects the whole rest of the body. So if I want to work a muscle, I need to take consideration the tendons and joints that are attached to it. I need to consideration all the contractile elements that are involved, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I have to take consideration all the different lines of tension that those muscles are connected to. So to the contractile part, you have 5 ranges of motion that you can work your body. I don't know if I'm being recorded, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So if I'm flexing my arm like that, right? You can say that's full range of motion. That's 1. That's internal rotation motion. That's 2. That's external rotation motion. That's 3. I have middle range. That's 4. And 5 is extreme. So if I were to push my hand out of my arm like I do for someone stretching the elbows, I'm moving as far apart of the muscle fibers as I can. That's a 5th range of motion. So you have to choose which range of motion you need to work with the best. If your tendons and ligaments are too flaccid, you work on the internal range of motion. If it's too tight and you need more flow, you work external rotation. If you need to build just basic muscle to start, you generally work total range of motion first before you become more specific. And then you can change your workout in many different ways, and that's called periodization. I don't know if I spelled that right, but it's periodization. And periodization is the combination of exercises, sets, reps, load, tempo, that's pace, and rest. Load is weight, okay? If you change one of these things, the whole exercise changes. If I'm working my bicep with no weight for full range of motion, and then I grab 10 pounds and I do this, I'd say muscle does a totally different workout to produce a totally different effect on the body. And so, of course, that is going to be a factor into it. Well, how do you start? You start with a rule that Bergmark, he's an American scientist, figured out called pit and dam. To break it down in layman's terms, pit is your deep muscles, dam is your big muscles. Pit's your spinal muscles, your deep hip muscles, your deep shoulder muscles. Dam is your chest, biceps, triceps, quads, stuff like that. You want to train these pit muscles first if you want to be linear, because the pit muscles dictate how well you move. So if you're going to go do a big high intensity workout and these pit muscles aren't firing properly, when I go do the workout, my body will do it because I told it to do it, but it's going to do it how it thinks it should do it. Not how you want to do it, right? And so once you teach all these small muscles to do their job, then you teach the big muscles also to do their job, and then you teach them how to work together, and they teach them in full range of motion. That's a basic linear progression. Teach small muscles what to do, big muscles what to do, incorporate the small, big muscles, work the 7 basic movements, and then you can do whatever you want, and you're good as long as you keep stretching and normalizing your body. Now, how do you know you're not hurting your body when you're working out? There's some rules to tell you how you're hurting your body. So there's a Pascal's law, which is it's a pressure. So if I have a good example is if I have a soccer ball, right, it's filled up, I pump it up, right, that pressure inside the soccer ball, this force is evenly distributed around the entire soccer ball. If I push or kick on one side of the soccer ball, the pressure that I push into the soccer ball is distributed evenly everywhere. So when I'm working out my abs, if I have a weak lower ab or I have a weak spine and I'm doing abs and I don't understand what I'm doing, I can put pressure badly into those 2 spots respectively. If I put too much pressure into my belly button, too weak, I can get a umbilical hernia. If I put too much pressure down toward my spine, that can help produce, that not help, that will eventually produce some sort of herniation because I'm pushing pressure there. So you have to understand that pressure part. The Delpech law of pressure, that just simply means that's osteoarthritis. So in the tensegrity approach, in the way you want to change it, balance your body, nothing should ever touch. If you have a perfect body, nothing's ever rubbing against each other, right? It's always a movement and the force is transferred here, and then goes here and it moves here and transfers there. If it stops in a certain pressure area and gets pressure, it's like if you rub your hands together, right? So I lift weights a lot and I have calluses all through my fingers. It's because I'm constantly grabbing a bar and that rubbing of the bar produced calluses on my thing. That's Delpech law of pressure, but that can happen internally too, right? So if my hips are too tight, right, all those muscles that we do in the class for stretching, and it's taking my hip bone and pulling it into my acetabulum, well, now it's touching. Now when I just walk, I'm rubbing that the head of the femur in the acetabulum. That produces anarchic production of the cartilage and bone, which means now it's not smooth. It's like running over a bumpy road, right? But the body doesn't want to do that. And that produces inflammation and pain and fun. So if you have some of that going on, don't just keep working out. Do something to release that pressure, strengthen it in that position, and then you can move on to your workouts. Sherrington's law is a you don't really need to know that, but it's good to understand that when I flex something, and immediately the back muscle is relaxed. That's not super important today. I just want to list it. The stretch reflex is more important. The stretch reflex has to go with people stretching before workouts. So it's been popularized since back in the 50s because when I stretch a muscle, again, I'll take my biceps, you can see it. If I stretch this to my bicep and it goes here, it's too tight. But I stretch it, I'm stretching, I'm holding 30 seconds, and it goes a little bit further. That's because in that little area, my Golgi tendon muscle spindles, little proprioceptors, they felt that tension when I was here, and they go, oh my God, I'm gonna tear and break. Turn it off. And so they turn them off, and I can go a little further. So these guys in the 50s says, oh, look, they have better range of motion when they stretched before. And that's totally true. But go back to the part where I said they turned off. So I turned off these little awareness modules, right? And then I want to use these little things. The body goes, I'm not doing that. I'm turned off. Because it takes a while to turn back on. So you don't want to stretch statically before a workout. You absolutely want to warm up. You want to move your body, get your heart rate going, take the blood and put it in different areas. For those who've done my classes, you understand, how we articulate and move the blood in the body. So basically, turn it on. It's like the older cars. Okay, I'm not calling you old, but like the older cars where you had to let your car run for a while because it was pure oil, right? So it's all gunky. But as the heat from the car progressed and raised up, it made that oil in the car become less viscous, less sludgy, and more liquid, more like water. And now that oil can flow through the car. It was the same thing for our body. Well, I'm sitting down right now, and so my blood is more sludgy, right? It's probably sitting in my legs more because I've been sitting around too long. If I want to work out, I get up and I'm going to go ride the bike a little bit. I'm going to do some jump rope. I'm going to jump in place. I can go for a walk around the block just to get myself warm. And then depending on what I'm doing, I'm going to take that blood and move the certain parts of my body I want to work in the surrounding areas so that when I do my workout, my body goes, I got it. I know what to do. Golgi tendon I just talked about, stretch reflex. And then also a big one is a delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. So a lot of people think that being sore is bad. And being injured and hurt definitely is bad. Being sore is not bad. When I work a muscle, whether strengthening or some active stretching or even some passive stretching, I'm pushing my tissue past what it can do, and I damage it a little bit. But when I damage it a little bit, I damage it with the thought of making it better, because I damaged it with a good stimulus. So my bicep shouldn't only go to, or my elbow, I should say, shouldn't only be able to extend to here. It should be extended to here. So I do the stretching to allow my elbow to extend a little bit more. The body understands that he did an activity because he wanted his elbow to extend a little bit further, and that's a good thing. Now I'm going to remember that here, so that next time when he just uses his elbow for whatever, he can go further. And so the more I can educate my body with good stretches and exercises, the more it learns. But then also the more, to get back to DOMS, the more it gets sore. That gets sore, right? But it's a good and a sore thing, because I've torn away, you could say, the bad tissue and bad education, and I brought it back together and reformed it through good hydration and nutrition and rest to build in a good way. So you want to do that. Oh, that's it. So I hope that was informative to you. I just want you, again, you're not, like I said in the last presentation, you're not a health and fitness professional, it's not your job. But what I want you to understand is that to just be taken in by short-term goals, or from short-term advertising or short-term thoughts in your head of what you want, and to not know that this is going on is dangerous. To not know these things can happen to you is dangerous, because you can produce an injury in your body, an imbalance in your body, by working out. We have a little funny saying in my little field, is that sometimes, in terms of injury and pain, it's better if the person hasn't worked out at all, if they're a couch potato. I'm not saying being a couch potato, but if I just sit around and I become injured, when I go to retrain myself, I don't have a bunch of bad education. And also, if I injure myself and I don't work out, I don't increase the load on my body, which makes my injury worse. So get out there, work out, definitely move your body. But if you have a specific goal, try and find some way to get a proper program. Obviously, I use all these rules and philosophies in my program, so feel free to reach out and ask questions, and we'll try and help you as best you can. So thanks for showing up. Appreciate it.